Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying explores grief and loss through the story of Edith Almadi as she reminisces and honors her son's life. In collaboration with filmmakers Natalie Baird and Toby Gillies, Edith's words come to life in vibrant and majestic illustrations. The short will join other beautiful films at this year's Gimli International Film Festival. And we have Natalie and Toby to tell us more. Let's get into it.
My name is Toby Gillies, and this is Natalie.
I'm Natalie Baird.
Natalie Baird, and we're an artist duo in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we've made a film. We otherwise do a lot of community engaged art projects that take many forms.
When I was watching Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying, absolutely beautiful. I was really captured by the color and the art style. Is this both your first film, or have you worked on something beforehand?
Yeah, this is our first professional film together. So for about 10 years, we've worked together on different community projects, including at Misericordia Health Center, where we met Edith, who is the subject of the film. So we've known her for about 10 years and have interviewed her over the years. But this was really our first time working on a project at this scale together.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how do you facilitate that sort of connection? How do you meet them? But that makes a lot of sense if you worked with her for over a decade now.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, trying to remember.
How did that connection
came to be? The program, I guess, really is just about bringing. It's an artist residency program we started with support from the Manitoba Arts Council. So it's been with us and with our friend Francesca and Hannah as well. And we just go and spend maybe a couple of hours once a week at Edith's home. We first met her when she was in I guess more like she was in patient care at the healthcare center at Misericordia, and then she moved to the care home across the street. And so we continued working with her during that time. And I think in 2014 or so, we mounted an exhibition of patient artwork at ACEART in Winnipeg. And we had interviewed Edith for that, but we couldn't understand anything she was saying. So we determined that we needed a microphone. So we just continued visiting with her over the years, making art with her. And then in 2019, she was ill, I think, and we just wanted to capture her stories for our personal records. And so we interviewed her again, and we brought a lapel mic and a shotgun mic, and we could really hear her. Although we didn't listen again actually until 2020. I don't know, something happened in 2020 and we had some time. And so we looked back on the footage and we were just blown away by the things she was saying. They were so poetic and interesting and beautiful. And so we saw that project as an animated film because we know her through the storytelling comes along with drawing in our relationship with her. So we sit at a table, we make drawings with her, we talk about what's in the pictures, we share in that way. So we thought that for this project, the drawing should come to life, should be moving as part of the storytelling.
Let's work through that part. Taking the artwork and creating it into animation. What was that process? Would she create some pieces and you're like, oh, we're going to take this and then build around it? What was that process like?
It actually started with the interview process. I guess you were about to talk about that.
So we were inspired by Edith's artworks, but as Toby mentioned, when Edith makes artwork, it's with other people around the table. So either with Toby or I are there collaborating with her or supporting her to make her artwork. She's not someone who was an artist before the program. It's just something that she came to because she was interested and became really fascinated by art making. And during the filmmaking process, we really wanted to create a visual world and imagery that was really from the three of us, our shared imagination.
We interviewed her just by pushing her drawings up against the window, and then she just kind of talked. So the story that what she's responding to with her words is also her drawings as well.
And then as part of the production process, we spent time developing ways to kind of bring together our three styles or way of making art. So generally speaking, Toby's work is very colorful and my work is more in grayscale and inky. And then Edith's work is kind of these line drawings. with like watercolor paint. And so the film really is a combination of those three things coming together.
We wanted it to look like the three of us made it, not like it was just Edith's drawings come to life, because the story is active filmmaking and storytelling, re-storytelling it's Edith's story, but it's our storytelling. So we wanted to show that in the image making as well, that that it's also us doing this work.
How long does that take, taking those images, making it into the final product? Because you're mentioning within this whole process, you started with the interview and then you went from there. So let's start with that. Like, how long did that interview / collecting the audio take and then going from there to create the visuals?
We interviewed her like a long form interview, like probably an hour and a half in 2019. And then, as Toby mentioned, we just didn't really have time to look at it for about a year. And then once we had some more time in the early part of the pandemic and we were both, stuck in our houses, we couldn't go and visit Edith. We thought, we should look back on this interview and see what's in there. And so we sat with it and listened to it really deeply. and then from there went back to visit her, and we would interview her through the window. So the healthcare staff at her personal care home would mic her up and get her set up at the window. And then we'd be sitting on the other side with a microphone and we would talk to her through the phone. That process, we did that a number of times to kind of finalize the story, because she tells the same stories and talks about the same things often. But after 4 hours of interview, we really had to spend time refining those ideas into a very succinct 7-minute film. And then once we had that kind of script of the stories she was telling us, we started building imagery around that. So we looked at her drawings and we thought about what she was saying to build a visual world around what it is that she shared with us. And so that process from start to finish really took
4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. The structure of working with the National Film Board is that they supported us to investigate the idea and then to develop the story and how we were going to work together. And then we had to prepare a complete kind of pitch to say, this is how we're going to make it. This is how the animation is going to go. And then we spent
style, like exactly what it's going to look like. Yeah.
Then we spent a year and a half just doing the animation. So just drawing frame by frame and then scanning it and then working with it on the computer to bring it into the digital piece. And then we spent a number of months in post-production. So working with sound designers and musicians and Foley artists and final picture editors to make it the complete package that it is now. All of that took, I think, 4 or 5 years. And then knowing her for 5 years before that. So it's really the culmination of a long relationship.
It was actually, we've been saying 10 years, but it was 10 years when we started the project.
Okay, so it's been 14 years now.
Yeah, something.
Well, I think that's an important thing to note, that it is this 7-minute piece, but it took several years to complete. So for a lot of filmmakers or people are like, why would I even bother starting a project? It's like, you know what? It's okay. It can take a long time, even for something short, but in the end, it can become something absolutely beautiful.
And it could have been a lot of different things. This film,
Yes.
It could have had a lot of different stories in it from the interviews, but this was the thread that was the most sort of, first of all, the common things she said, but also just
The most striking.
The most striking. It's what we witnessed in her through all those. It encompassed like a lot of years of knowing her, but also the current moment in her life and what we observed in her while we were interviewing her.
I think as artists, we both, just investigate and kind of follow what interests us. And, I think in 2013, we were interested in Edith's story and we interviewed her, but it took a long time for that to develop into something. So I think if filmmakers or artists are trying to figure out how to start a project, I think it's just good to just like get going and then see what happens.
What do you hope people take away from this film? What sort of emotions are you hoping are left with audiences? Because, I have my own feelings about it, but I'd like to know what, your hopes are for someone watching it completely fresh for the first time.
I mean, the film deals with really big ideas. It talks about love and grief and imagination. And Edith talks about her very personal experience of losing her son and what that was like for her. And how she uses drawing and imagination to feel this very real sensation of being with him. And the film kind of carries you along through that moment of that kind of thought that she's carried away with. And then we hope that audiences are also carried away with. And I hope that people, they take away maybe a reflection on their own experience of what love and grief means to them. And maybe also think of someone in their life that those feelings are connected to.
Yeah, it's so powerful, like watching the images and then hearing her speak. And like, yeah, it's very emotional to hear these stories, especially for anyone who's experienced grief or the loss of a loved one. But at the same time, not to just feel complete despair, but to remember them in those positive elements as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned from watching Edith, and that I hope other people can get as well, is that the experience of thinking of someone you've lost, or remembering them, or having a dream of them, in your head, can be really nice, and it's real, and it's not like a fake, meaningless thing to happen. It's a real experience, and just that, you can, in witnessing her, maybe you can allow yourself to have those feelings as well.
Your film is going to be alongside several others within the short film category. What are you most excited about to have? I mean, not only is your film showcased on the National Film Board's website, it's now being showcased at Manitoba's premier film festival. I guess just what are your feelings on that, and maybe what are your hopes as it's kind of tied into these other short films created here in Manitoba?
We've had a really exciting local release of the film that have in its different pockets of sharing have been very meaningful in their own ways, and it's really exciting to share in the film festival context close to Winnipeg, close to our homes, and certainly with a lot of our artist and community members. And I think that's it's an honor.
Yeah, it is an honor. And I think the experience of being able to connect in the local Manitoba context, but of course there's films and artists from around the world that show their films there. And so to be able to play alongside them in a shorts program, I think makes us feel connected to the larger animation community.
I'm excited to see even just where it's placed within the program, because it's we're very used to seeing it isolated, the project isolated and existing in its own way, but similar to a music playlist, things make you feel different when they're placed within other films or other songs, like where it sits in the mix can really change how it feels for me.
Yeah,
I'm sure for other audience members as well. Yeah.
Last year when I was watching the shorts for the Winnipeg Indigenous Film Collective, seeing those short programs together, so exciting seeing the different ones, and sometimes it changes the mood in a moment. You're like, oh, whoa, now I'm feeling this way. It's like, okay, let's change. And then sometimes it ties together. Or at the Fascination Film Festival, seeing Asian short films of a variety of different mediums and styles from around the world is always so exciting to see this kind of cohesive experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So through this entire project, what are some things that you learned from it? Maybe to be like, these are some of the challenges that we experienced. How can we overcome them next time on a potential project? And what are one moment that you're like, yeah, this was kind of like our favorite part of creating this experience?
That's a big one.
Oh, I would for me, I feel really lucky to that through the process, I think one of the main things that we learned was that we really like working together as collaborators. And so to have the space to really dive into an idea and then find a way of working together, I would say overall is pretty seamless. We have kind of complementary.
Well, we also learned like when we have conflict, how that's useful and important also.
Yeah. And how to argue productively. And so I think, we've worked on projects together over the years, but it's kind of been here and there part-time, different things. And so to work together every day for a number of years has been, and now we've built this way of working together that we're excited to share with other projects. And I think also just like the process and scale of planning a project of that size was really, and we worked with so many amazing mentors that were set up through the National Film Board and other technicians and professionals and producers who really gave so much input into the process. And I think working with them really expanded my understanding of the art that we were making and how it could be shared with others.
For me, the biggest challenge I think overall that I can look back on is the short form film format. How it's every little beat and moment is thought through and precious in the film, and that lends itself well to animation because you need to think that way with your labor anyways. But in the context of writing the film or piecing together the documentary and the spoken aspects of it, as well as I guess the visual development, but. The short form required us to be so thorough and thoughtful with either to include things or not include things. It had so many different versions. Like the first cut felt like it's 20 minutes. It had to be that way. And originally it was supposed to be an under 5-minute film. And so, we experimented with taking all of the breath out making it really dense. And anyways, and then as it sort of took its form, then we were taking dialogue out, taking ideas out. We kind of seen after we animated it because it didn't need to be in there anymore. And so I think that process of like massaging a story and to fit impactfully into a short amount of time was really challenging and also really eye-opening and has given me a lot of appreciation for the form.
Yeah, I talked to the director of a short documentary called Modern Goose, and he was telling me about how through his process of filming the Canadian geese here in Winnipeg, how he had to change how he approached the story because he just kind of like went somewhere, tried to grab all this footage, and he's like, well, how do I fit it now into there after you have this whole idea? And his original idea was focusing much more on water and how that kind of connects Winnipeg together, but had to shift it due to time restraints. But you're right. It's a skill in itself to take something, because you can like whenever we see these like director's extended editions, you know, there's so much extra footage and things that you can put into something, but trying to squeeze it into like a set format is incredibly impressive.
It also it makes the work much stronger.
Yeah, to be succinct and clear with our ideas. And it's interesting with animation because I mean, like every second of animation, we animated at 12 frames per second, but each frame would have multiple drawings part of it. So it would take us many weeks or months to animate just one part of the film. And so we also had to really rationalize and make a case for why each thing was needed and why we had to tell the story in this way. And so that really helped us focus on like, oh, is that actually effective, or can this be said in another way?
Are there any other projects or like animation things that you're wanting to tackle or have played around with a little bit?
We're in an experimental phase, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, we have sort of like a bunch of little ideas where we are investigating. Some linked to documentary again. Some just sort of there was some ideas that we cut from this film, visual ideas. One in particular of plants and life, the cycle of like growth and death looping around was something that we were exploring more visually in Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying in earlier versions, and we wanted to explore that more. So we're working on some animation tests for another project that kind of maybe we're exploring ideas we cut from this one, but they had their own branches they need to be developed still. So we're kind of like we're dancing around lots of different ideas right now.
Yeah, and we've continued working, or we've expanded the work that we're doing in healthcare. So we've worked for a long time in Misericordia Health Center as artists in residence, but now we're also working with the volunteer department at St. Boniface Hospital, where also coincidentally we had an exhibition. They have a beautiful gallery there at the hospital that's open to the public, and we have a collection of artworks from the making of Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. So we've installed the animation frames and in some cases made new artworks with the original drawings to coincide with the launch of the film. But we've become more involved with St. Boniface Hospital. I think every time we meet someone, I mean, Edith is just one person, and we've met a lot of people like Edith who have a richness of stories to tell and so much like vibrancy and life to them. And so I think we've met some volunteers that are just really passionate about what they're interested in. And then we're like, well, that's got to be a film, or, oh, we've got to develop that idea.
Yeah, we kind of maybe reframed the way we're thinking about making things.
Well, I think that's important, like a kind of a lesson for everyone to make sure you're listening to the people around you. You never know what stories they're going to tell or potentially could be lost to history. Like for this case, you're able to capture Edith's story and share it with so many people, but not every story gets that opportunity.
I think, and I don't think there's many opportunities to hear someone in Edith's sort of context and situation like we do in our film. Any of her neighbors in that building it would have a story to tell and a personality to share just as she does. Mm-hmm. And so it feels also like an honor to be able to share our appreciation for Edith and people like in her situation through this project.
Will you both be attending GIFT this year? And if so, what are you most excited about the Gimli International Film Festival?
Natalie's out of town.
I'm going to be out of province, unfortunately.
Ah, shoot.
Yeah. I'm for sure going to go out to the screening, the short screening that's showing our film. And then I'm going to try to make it out again, but I have to look at the schedule a bit more.
Where can people find out more about yourselves or your work or future work? Do you have like a website, social media?
Yeah. So Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying is available for free across Canada on the National Film Board website. So,
But after you go to Gimli.
after you go to Gimli, you can watch.
Yeah, go to Gimli first. See it
Yeah.
there.
Well,
It's
and
better
watch
in the
it
theater.
amongst people
Yeah.
in the theater much
And
better.
it has an incredible sound design that's very immersive and really like brings the textures and the feeling of the animation. So we really encourage people to listen to it with good audio, which would be the best at Gimli.
Yeah.
But you can learn more about the film on the nfb.ca website. And then we also have our own websites, and we should make a website for our shared
We could share a page.
artistic practice.
Yeah, right.
But you can just search our names, Natalie Baird Winnipeg or Toby Gillies Winnipeg. And we also have Instagrams that are under our names as well.
Just as kind of leaving off, a quick synopsis of your film for those listening.
So the film is it's a short meditation on grief and love and imagination. And it features our dear friend Edith Almadi, who's a mother, an elder, and the narrator of the film. And in the film, she is taken away by the experience of making a drawing of her and her son and the memories that comes along with that.
Have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.